Hi friends, welcome back to Rouse Rising. If you're new here, my name is Katie. Today we're cooking and talking about self-care. Let's get into it. This is my early morning routine on any given day. I always try to start myself out with a nourishing drink, and this is my homemade electrolyte drink that I am using. This is filtered water from my SimPure reverse osmosis water filtration system. This is one that fits on your countertop, and to my water I am adding a pinch of Redmond's real salt. I add a little bit of my elderflower cordial. I add some lemon juice and some honey, and this makes a wonderful, lightly flavored water drink that helps hydrate me and replenish my electrolytes that I have lost overnight. And it's just the best way I have found for myself to get hydrated in the morning and to start my day. Installing a reverse osmosis water filtration system has never been easier because this one comes pre-installed with the filters. It also makes the best drinking water, removing 99% of pollutants and harmful substances. I like to drink my water out of a glass water bottle. This helps reduce plastic water bottle waste. This reverse osmosis filtration system gets rid of any of that funky tap water taste. Say hello to delicious water. Next, we're on to all of these apples that we washed up last night. We worked on drying them. We put those in a basket for the kids to grab and eat, and then I am going to make my coffee. I like to use unrefined coconut palm sugar in my coffee, and we like Pete's coffee around here with a splash of organic milk. Makes it really delicious. Next, I'm on to baking bread, and this is my daily loaf of bread that I make in my bread machine. You can check out that recipe on my channel. I have it listed there. If you just go and search daily loaf of bread, it should bring up that video. I also have a sourdough recipe that I bake in my bread machine, and that's available in my YouTube shorts. The recipe is over there if you prefer a sourdough bread in your bread machine. For 6 years, I exclusively baked sourdough bread for my family, and I would bulk batch bake 6 to 8 loaves a week and freeze them. Well, since I found this bread machine, my bread routine has changed significantly. As a mom of 5, I found that this is the quickest and easiest way for me to get bread on the table to my family. It's very efficient. I still make sourdough bread about 3 to 4 times a month, and we enjoy that a lot in the cooler months when I can have my oven turned on. We do a lot more baking. Right now I'm going to make an elk roast, and elk is a very lean cut of meat, or a very lean type of meat. It is rich in iron, but when we cook a roast, we have to do a really low and slow cooking process. So I just sear it on the outside, and then we're gonna cook this on low for a few hours. I'm gonna add some carrots, some onions that are picked from my garden. I recently dug those up. And we're gonna add a little bit of celery to this roast, and I'm gonna finish it off with a bit of water just to get everything in there steaming up nicely. And we're gonna have this for dinner tonight. I'm also gonna add a mixture of herbs. This has thyme, rosemary, marjoram in it, and these herbs came from my garden. So I just keep a little jar available to add to all of my meals throughout the week. When it comes to making a roast, it's always safe to go with your onions, your celery, and your carrots, but feel free to add anything that you like. Sometimes we add other root vegetables. I personally like parsnips and a few other in-season veggies that I haven't yet seen in our store here locally. But we're gonna go ahead and throw in the celery. We're gonna crack some pepper in this, as well as some salt. Just simple seasonings, simple foods to keep this roast delicious. This is going to be slow cooking on low in my Instant Pot. I also found some baby carrots that needed to be used up, so we threw those in there as well. And this is just going to hang out with the vent open all day long. Next, I want to go ahead and get some beans going. This is a big meal prep day for me, and I thought it would just be convenient if while I'm in the kitchen, if I can knock out a few extra meals. These beans are going to stretch quite a bit. I'm going to be using the ham hock from the ham that I diced up this week. And we're going to use the whole 4-pound bag of beans because half of these are going to be canned with some of the ham, and we're going to put these away for another meal another day, and the rest we're going to use in some other meals this week, and it's also going to be kind of a side. So what I like to do is soak my beans with some hot boiling water, and these can just sit there on the counter for about an hour. Also, you want to make sure that you are sorting through your beans, making sure there's no rocks or debris or dirt. So give them a good rinse, sort through them, and then add your boiling water. This is the rest of the ham. This is where it was getting tricky for members of my family to cut off pieces to eat on their sandwiches or lunch. So I'm just trying to get all of this ham cut up, and I'm removing as much of the fat as I can because all of this is going to be canned with those beans. So we're going to throw the hock with the bone and all of the hard connective tissues back into the Instant Pot with the beans, and that's going to slow cook with the beans all day, and all of that delicious nourishment is going to come out of that ham hock. All of those hard connective tissues are going to render down into a beautiful gelatinous broth in those beans. So the key to making your beans is to cover them with 1 to 2 inches of water. I'm going to end up adding more water to this as I go. I'm also going to add some bay leaves to add some flavor, some carrots. I actually ran out of onions on this day. Typically, I would add an onion to my beans as well, and we're going to season it with a little bit of salt because the ham hock already has quite a bit of saltiness to it. So we want to be careful with our seasoning, and we'll readdress that down the road. Some people wait to salt their beans till the very end. Then we're going to take all of that ham that we had, cube it up, and put a little bit, about 1/4 of a bit of ham cubes in our jars. And the beans are all done cooking, or they're about halfway done cooking. That's why I'm starting the canning process. They will finish cooking in the pressure cooker, but I'm adding beans to the top of the ham, and then I added some of the broth from the crock pot, but I'm topping these off with a bit more boiling water. I'm not adding any salt or anything to these jars. They're already salty enough from my tasting, and then I'm just going to apply the hot lids and the bands, and we're going to move these over to the pressure cooker where they are going to release all the steam in the pot for 10 minutes, and then we're going to set our timer once it reaches the appropriate pressurization for my altitude for where my kitchen is located. I always refer to the USDA pressure canning guidelines, as well as you can reference the Ball Canning Cookbook. And I also have a Presto canner, and I reference my Presto canner manual anytime that I can anything. I'll go over a few important tips here. You always want to add your hot jars to your hot water. Never ever add something cold to something hot because you can cause them to break or explode. Next, you also want to make sure that you are venting your canner for 10 minutes. So once you put the lid on and you see the steam rising out of the canner, you set your timer for 10 minutes. After that 10 minutes of it releasing steam, you know that the internal temperature is high enough, and then you can start by adding your weight and then bringing it up to the appropriate pressure for your elevation and setting your timer once it reaches that appropriate pressure. Next, here is the Elk Roast. Oh boy, I struggle with Elk Roast every single time. I have not perfected it. I'm always afraid to cook them. I always look up recipes, and I'm never happy with what I end up with. So this looks really, really dry. And it is, but it is very, very tender. I'm using my dad's knife, which I failed to sharpen. I'm sorry, Dad. I know I needed to sharpen it before I cut this meat, but it still cut the meat beautifully, and the meat was very, very tender. So these are the beans and the ham hock, and this is after I've canned the beans. We still have so much left over that we're gonna have enough for dinner tonight and enough to use in a future recipe that I'm gonna share with you on my next video. So make sure you click that subscribe button because you don't wanna miss how I use up all of my leftovers and the delicious meals I'm making for you all next. So our canner is all done, and I'm just gonna let these sit on a towel overnight, and they're just gonna chill there till the morning. I can already tell that all of my 4 jar lids have sealed beautifully. There's a link down below in my video's description with 10% off of 4 jar lids. So if you need some canning lids, I've been very happy with these. Nearly all of the lids have sealed in all of my canning adventures, minus 2 that were user error. I made a mistake and on a different batch of food, not this one. All of these are sealed. And so now we have some shelf-stable food for the future. That is my favorite thing to do, is to can up meals. This is my fast food. So I have a healthy, nourishing meal that's going to, either these little pints of beans are going to accompany us with a meal, or I'm going to use them to add to chili in the future. They are really tasty and versatile, so I'm happy to have a good source of protein on the shelf for my family when I feel frazzled and I feel like, oh my goodness, I just want to throw a pizza in the oven or whatever, a frozen junk food. I know that I don't have to resort to that. I can go to my shelf with all of my canned goods and we can have a homemade meal warmed in minutes. What I'm doing right here is washing all of my jars and lids very well with soapy hot water. You want to be sure that when you are storing your canned jars of food, that you are removing the bands and that you are washing them with hot soapy water so that bacteria, etc., is not growing on the outside of your stored jars. I'm just going to dry them off really well here, and then we're going to place these on our canned food shelf in my pantry extension. Since this is the morning after my big day of cooking and canning, I am just going to clean out my canner. I'm going to scrub it out nice and get it ready for the next round of canning. Then I'm going to be making my family breakfast. And today we're just going to have eggs and toast. It's nice and simple, protein-rich breakfast for my kiddos as I send them off to school. I always want to make sure that I nourish them really well before they go to school so that they're not feeling hungry and so that their brains are functioning and learning as much as they can. I also want to tidy up my kitchen a little bit. I'm going to get all of these extra appliances, the slow cooker, the Instant Pot. I'm going to move these to my extended pantry area and get my counters all clear so that I can tackle the day with a clear space, a clear working space, a clear mind. It's always important to me to clean up as I go along. Those times I don't clean up as I go along, I definitely feel really frazzled and agitated easily, frantic, those types of things. I'm sure you all have heard me mention before, I grew up in a home that was hoarded, both my mother's home and my grandmother's home. They had so much stuff. And things got cluttered really quickly because there was a lot of people in those homes. And so that's something I struggle with. Someone asked me in my last video, Katie, do you have OCD? And I would say to a certain extent I do. Trauma-related OCD from my childhood and the fear of things being out of control around me or out of control around my children. I have a very high standard for how I keep my home, and I panic if I feel like it's starting to get out of control or if things are starting to get unruly or overly messy. I have to do a pickup, a tidy up, a cleanup. And this happens multiple times a day, and I still feel like my house is a mess. But we're working on that. We're working on mental health. We are working on living sober. I am coming up on 1 year alcohol free, and this has been a long journey for me. I have, quite a few years under my belt, and living healthy and taking care of myself and making myself a priority has always been a last priority. But here we are. Katie today is making herself a priority. Self-care is really important these days. Getting a break when I need one is really important these days. And asserting myself when I need help is really important to me these days. Setting boundaries, all of those are things that we as mothers learn throughout our motherhood. Some of us are especially good at setting boundaries, and some of us are especially good at self-care. And then there are those of us like myself, and we struggle in both of these areas of our life. So mamas, let this be a word of wisdom or advice, or if you feel like everything in your life is kind of out of control around you, just remember to take a step back, give yourself a break, take that deep breath, and remember the things that are good in your life, and remember the things that bring you joy, whether that is preparing nourishing food for your family and how blessed you are to be able to do that, to having a healthy family and healthy children, just reminding yourself of the blessing and the joy that that alone is. And your own health. Are you healthy? Are you well? That is something to be thankful for every day. So when we can kind of get down in the dumps with our mood, or if we're struggling in life a little bit, just going back to basics and simplifying life and remembering what's important: the roof over your head, the warm clothes, the healthy people around you, or the health of the people around you, nourishment, and being prepared for what may come or what is or what may be. I think if we can just take a step back and evaluate our lives for the simple, beautiful life that it is. Here's a little bit of elderberry preservation to tie up this video. I freeze-dried a bunch more elderberries, and I have quite a bit left to go. So this is something I'm going to just chip away at every single day. If you have a big task to complete, just remember, little by little gets the job done. Here's your encouragement to go and tackle that. I just want to say thank you so much to you for watching this vlog. If you made it this far, leave a comment down below and let me know how you're doing and what you're doing to better your mental space, to help lift yourself up out of a funk or keep yourself out of that funk. Let's lift each other up in the comments and share ways that we take care of ourselves and our mental health, and ways that we are, filling our cup so that we can fill the cup of those around us. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. I appreciate you being here so much today. Until next time, bye.